9 signs you're living your last life on Earth. Have you ever felt like your soul is trying to tell you something? Something big? Something urgent? What if I told you that you might be living your very last lifetime on this Earth? Yes, you heard that right. This video dives deep into the 9 powerful signs that reveal you're on the brink of a profound spiritual transformation, a journey unlike any you've experienced before. But this isn't just another vague spiritual talk. We've packed this video with rich, eye-opening insights drawn from ancient wisdom and modern understanding that could change the way you see your life and death forever. From the quiet whispers of your intuition to startling memories from past lives, from the fading grip of ego to the blossoming of unconditional love, every sign tells a story about your soul's evolution. You don't want to miss a second of this. Watch all the way through to unlock the full picture and understand what these signs mean for you personally. Trust me, this knowledge is powerful, transformative, and incredibly relevant to anyone seeking deeper meaning and peace in their life. If you find yourself resonating with even one of these signs, hit that like button, leave a comment to share your experience, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We're on this journey together, bringing ancient wisdom to modern lives with honesty, depth, and compassion. Ready to uncover the mysteries your soul has been trying to reveal? Let's dive in. 1. Disillusionment with materialism and fame, the soul's quiet awakening. At some point in life, many of us reach a subtle but profound turning point, a moment when the glitter of worldly success begins to lose its luster. The promotion you once chased with fierce determination, the flashy car that was a symbol of status, the endless scroll of social media likes, all suddenly seem hollow, like echoes in a vast, empty room. This feeling isn't born out of frustration or failure, but from a deep, almost whispering sense of fulfillment that something greater is calling. From a Buddhist viewpoint, this disillusionment is a vital sign, not a failure, but a spiritual milestone. It reflects the natural unfolding of the soul's journey as it becomes ready to step beyond the illusions of samsara, the endless cycle of craving and dissatisfaction. The Buddha taught that craving, tanha, is the root of suffering, dukkha. When the desires that once seemed essential to happiness lose their grip, it signals that the soul is awakening to a deeper truth. Imagine a river that has rushed with wild energy, chasing every twist and turn. Then, as it nears the ocean, its pace slows, its waters become stiller, more contemplative. Similarly, the soul, after lifetimes of chasing external validation, wealth, fame, power, begins to settle into a quieter, more expansive state. This stage is not about giving up ambition or retreating from life. Rather, it's about recognizing the impermanence and emptiness of material success. The heart starts to crave meaning over accumulation, essence over appearance. In Buddhist terms, this is the dawning of right understanding, samadhi, seeing reality as it truly is. Many who experience this transition describe it as a quiet cup of tea moment, a preference for simplicity, peace, and authentic connection over the noisy chaos of worldly pursuits. The soul no longer yearns for trophies or applause because it recognizes these as fleeting shadows that cannot sustain lasting joy. This detachment is not cold or apathetic, but is rooted in compassion for oneself and others. It is a loving release from the prison of desire that binds us all. As one great Buddhist teacher put it, the way out of suffering is the letting go of what no longer serves. This process can feel unsettling at first, especially in a culture that equates success with material gain and public recognition. But from the spiritual vantage point, it is a beautiful, natural evolution, a readiness to move from surface pleasures to the profound peace that lies beneath. In practical terms, this might look like finding joy in moments of stillness, valuing relationships over possessions, or choosing a path of service rather than self-promotion. The soul begins to value the unseen riches, kindness, mindfulness, presence, and the gentle wisdom that comes from living in harmony with the truth of impermanence. This stage also opens the door to deeper questions. What truly matters? What is the nature of happiness? How can I live authentically and fully without attachment? In answering these questions, one walks the path laid out by the Buddha, not one of renouncing life, but one of embracing it with eyes wide open, free from the chains of craving and ego-driven ambition. Ultimately, this disillusionment is a sacred invitation, a call from the soul to awaken to its highest potential, to transcend the temporary and touch the eternal. 2. Unconditional love and forgiveness, the heart beyond conditions. In the teachings of the Buddha, one of the most transformative shifts in the spiritual journey is the unfolding of unconditional love, metta, and the profound practice of forgiveness. This love is not the kind tethered to expectations or limited by circumstances. Rather, it is a boundless, all-encompassing compassion that embraces every living being, the natural world, and even the very planet we inhabit. At the core of Buddhism lies the understanding that all beings suffer. The root of this suffering is often craving and attachment, but also ignorance, the inability to see ourselves reflected in others. Unconditional love begins the moment we dissolve this separation. It is the recognition that the pain, joy, and hopes of others are not separate from our own. When the heart expands in this way, love no longer hinges on whether someone meets our expectations or conforms to our desires. It simply flows, pure, free, and healing. Forgiveness, then, becomes an act of profound liberation. It is not about condoning harm or ignoring injustice, but about freeing ourselves from the heavy chains of resentment and hatred. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting another to suffer. Forgiveness is the antidote, a balm for the heart that restores peace and balance. Consider the Buddha's teaching on compassion, to recognize that even those who cause pain do so out of their own suffering and ignorance. This is not to excuse harmful behavior, but to understand its roots with empathy. Such understanding is the seed of forgiveness. It helps us let go of grudges, not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to choose peace over turmoil. This unconditional love extends beyond humans. It includes animals, plants, rivers, mountains, the entire web of life. In Buddhist thought, all phenomena are interconnected through pratitya samutpada, dependent origination. When we harm the earth, we harm ourselves. When we nurture nature, we nurture our own well-being. This awareness invites us to cultivate a respectful, loving relationship with the environment, honoring it as a living expression of compassion. In daily life, this might mean softening judgments, opening our hearts to those we struggle with, or simply practicing kindness in small acts. It also means embracing the imperfections in ourselves and others, seeing beyond the masks and wounds to the shared humanity beneath. Unconditional love challenges us to move beyond ego and duality. It calls us to love not because we expect something in return, but because love itself is the nature of our true being. The Buddha described this as the highest expression of karuna, compassion that transforms suffering into liberation. When forgiveness and unconditional love take root, they create a spaciousness in the heart, a freedom from the entanglements of blame, fear, and division. This spacious heart becomes a sanctuary, a place where peace can grow even amidst life's inevitable challenges. This teaching is not abstract philosophy. It is a practical path to healing and harmony. It invites us to cultivate patience and understanding, to nurture the seeds of kindness in ourselves and in the world around us. It asks us to love boldly and forgive deeply, not as a weakness, but as the most courageous act of all. In essence, unconditional love and forgiveness are the keys that unlock the prison of separation and open the door to genuine connection with others, with the earth, and with our own true nature. Number 3, heightened intuition and deep inner knowing, the silent wisdom within. One of the profound markers of spiritual maturity in the Buddhist journey is the blossoming of intuition. Not the fleeting guess or wishful thinking, but a deep, unwavering inner knowing that arises without the need for external validation. This kind of intuition is a sacred gift, a gentle yet powerful voice from within that guides us beyond the noise of the world. In Buddhist teachings, this is closely connected to panna, wisdom that transcends intellectual understanding and penetrates the heart of reality. Unlike knowledge gained from books, teachers, or debates, this wisdom is felt in the stillness of the mind and the quietude of the heart. It does not demand proof or explanation. It simply is. Imagine the difference between hearing a distant siren and tuning in to a steady lighthouse beam guiding a ship through a storm. That's the essence of this inner knowing, steady, clear, and reliable. It helps us navigate life's complexities with grace and calm, not because it gives us all the answers, but because it attunes us to the flow of life itself. This heightened intuition manifests in subtle yet unmistakable ways, a sudden clarity about a decision that previously seemed confusing, a gut feeling about a person's true intentions, or a spontaneous insight that arrives in moments of silence or even distraction. It is a sense of being deeply tuned in to the present moment and the deeper currents beneath it. From a Buddhist perspective, this inner knowing is the fruit of mindfulness and meditation practice, which quiet the restless chatter of the ego and open the space for true wisdom to arise. As the mind settles, the soul's true voice becomes audible. Importantly, this intuition is sacred and purposeful. It does not entertain trivial curiosities or superficial concerns. It does not seek to manipulate outcomes or satisfy egoic desires. Instead, it points us toward what is essential: growth, compassion, and the fulfillment of our highest purpose. This deep knowing often brings a sense of detachment from petty conflicts, surface-level drama, and ego battles. When you trust this inner guide, the urge to prove yourself or argue your point diminishes. Listening becomes more important than speaking, feeling more valuable than analyzing. Yet, with this gift comes responsibility. Ignoring or dismissing these intuitive nudges often leads to discomfort or inner unrest. The more attuned we become, the clearer the consequences of ignoring our inner guidance. It calls us to live with integrity and alignment. This wisdom also connects us more deeply to others and the world around us. When we listen to this inner voice, we sense the subtle energies of those we meet, the rhythm of nature, and the unfolding of life's mysteries. It is a reminder that we are not separate, but part of a greater whole. In the end, heightened intuition is not a special power reserved for a few, but a natural expression of a mind trained in presence and compassion. It is an invitation to live with open hearts and trusting spirits, guided from within rather than swayed by external turmoil. This inner compass leads us not just to survival, but to thriving in harmony with ourselves and all beings, an essential step toward true liberation. 4. The desire for harmony and avoidance of conflict. Protecting inner peace. In the spiritual journey, one of the most significant signs of maturity is the growing desire for harmony, not just in the world around us, but within our own hearts. This longing isn't about avoiding challenges or difficulties altogether. Rather, it reflects a conscious choice to step away from pointless conflicts that disturb inner peace. Buddhism teaches us that conflict arises largely from attachment, pride, and the restless ego striving to prove itself right. The Buddha emphasized the importance of ahimsa, nonviolence, not just in action, but in speech and thought. When we cling tightly to being right or winning an argument, we tie ourselves to suffering and lose sight of the bigger picture, our own well-being and the well-being of others. At this stage, the wise practitioner begins to see that energy spent on arguments over trivial matters is energy lost from nourishing the mind and heart. Just as a gardener carefully tends to the soil to allow flowers to bloom, so must we protect the fertile ground of our inner peace by avoiding unnecessary disputes. This is not about submission or passivity. It takes profound strength to recognize when a battle isn't worth fighting and to walk away with grace. It is an act of courage, not weakness. The Buddha himself often remained silent in the face of provocation, understanding that silence can be the greatest response to discord. Choosing harmony means valuing peace over pride. It's a shift from me versus you to a deeper understanding that all beings seek happiness and fear suffering. When conflicts arise, whether in family, workplace, or community, the awakened heart naturally becomes a mediator, a calming presence that seeks to bridge divides rather than deepen them. This harmony extends beyond interpersonal relationships. It includes a harmonious relationship with nature and life itself. Recognizing the interdependence of all things, one refrains from actions and thoughts that stir chaos or harm. This holistic peace reflects the Buddhist ideal of Sangha, community living in balance and mutual respect. The desire for harmony also softens the judgmental mind. Instead of reacting harshly to different opinions or behaviors, the compassionate heart accepts people where they are on their own path. This doesn't mean ignoring injustice, but approaching it with wisdom and calm, rather than anger and aggression. Moreover, protecting inner peace helps emotional wounds heal faster. When we resist the urge to hold grudges or replay old disputes, we free ourselves from the burden of resentment. This freedom creates space for love, joy, and clear insight to flourish. In practice, this means developing mindfulness around our reactions, catching ourselves before engaging in fruitless debates, choosing words that build rather than break, and cultivating patience in moments of irritation. Ultimately, the desire for harmony is a profound form of self-care and compassion. It preserves the sanctuary of the heart, allowing the light of wisdom to shine undisturbed. It aligns with the Buddha's teaching that peace begins within and radiates outward, transforming not only our own lives, but the world around us. 5. The sense of having fulfilled one's mission, peace in acceptance and growth. In the spiritual path, a profound milestone is the emergence of a quiet but powerful sense of completion, a feeling that you have walked your journey fully, that you have lived, learned, stumbled, and risen enough to say, "I did what I was meant to do." This is not about boasting or external validation. It is an inner peace that arises from deep acceptance and wisdom. Buddhism teaches that life is a continuous unfolding of causes and effects, a vast web of interconnected moments shaped by our intentions and actions. Each choice, each mistake, and each lesson is part of the intricate tapestry of karma. The awakened heart comes to see that nothing is wasted. Even the darkest, most painful experiences have contributed to growth, understanding, and compassion. This sense of mission fulfilled is rooted in upekkha, equanimity, a balanced mind that no longer clings to regret or attachment. It allows you to look back at your life with kindness, forgiving yourself for past errors and honoring the courage it took to face them. Rather than being trapped in guilt or longing for a different path, you embrace the totality of your experience as meaningful and complete. In practical terms, this feeling shifts the questions we ask ourselves. Instead of obsessing over, "Did I do enough?" or "Was I successful?" the inquiry becomes, "What have I learned? How have I grown? How have I contributed to the world with love and integrity?" This inner fulfillment also loosens the grip of fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of insignificance. When the soul knows it has done its part, it rests in a gentle confidence that transcends the ego's anxieties. From the Buddha's perspective, this is the fruit of right effort, samavayama, the diligent practice of cultivating wholesome qualities and letting go of unwholesome ones. It is the peace that comes not from perfection, but from wholehearted engagement with the path. Moreover, this sense of accomplishment does not freeze us in place. It opens space for flexible surrender, allowing plans to shift, desires to soften, and attachments to outcomes to dissolve. Actions are then performed out of love and wisdom, not compulsion or need for approval. The peace born of fulfilled mission also prepares the heart for the inevitable transitions of life, including death. It is a light that shines steadily, even as the physical body ages and changes, anchored in the certainty that the journey continues in other forms beyond this life. This realization invites us to live fully present in each moment, knowing that what we do now matters, not for applause or legacy, but as a natural expression of our true nature. In sum, the feeling of mission accomplished is the soul's serene acknowledgement of its path, a sacred harmony of acceptance, gratitude, and readiness for what lies beyond. 6. Gentle acceptance of death, embracing the natural flow of life. Death, often seen as the ultimate enemy, begins to reveal itself as a natural and necessary part of the great cycle of existence, a truth deeply rooted in Buddhist wisdom. When the soul matures spiritually, fear of death softens, replaced by gentle acceptance that transforms the way life itself is experienced. In Buddhism, death is not an end, but a transition, a doorway through which the consciousness moves from one form of existence to another. This perspective dissolves the illusion of death as a final, terrifying unknown. Instead, it invites us to see death as the closing of a chapter, much like the turning of a page in the endless book of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. The Buddha taught that attachment to the body and to worldly existence fuels the fear of death. When we cling to the self as a fixed, permanent entity, the thought of losing that self provokes anxiety and resistance. But through the practice of anicca, the insight into impermanence, we learn that all conditioned things, including our bodies and identities, are transient. This realization opens the door to peace. When the mind truly embraces impermanence, death loses its grip as a shadow of terror and becomes instead a natural, even sacred part of life's rhythm. Many who reach this stage of spiritual maturity report a shift in perspective. Death is no longer viewed as a punishment or tragedy, but as a reunion with the vast unknown, a return home. It is like shedding an old garment to wear a new one. Uncomfortable, perhaps, but necessary and beautiful. This acceptance deepens the appreciation for each moment alive. Knowing that life is finite brings an urgency to live fully and mindfully, cherishing relationships, simple joys, and the sacredness of existence. It encourages compassion, not only for ourselves, but for others who also face this inevitable passage. Importantly, gentle acceptance of death does not mean ignoring practical realities or denying grief. It acknowledges the physical challenges and emotional pain that accompany dying, but invites us to meet these with courage, mindfulness, and a calm heart. In meditation and reflection, practitioners cultivate upekkha, equanimity, a balanced mind that neither clings desperately nor rejects the process of dying. This equanimity is a profound liberation, freeing us from the cycle of fear and avoidance. Moreover, embracing death as natural helps us dissolve attachments to youth, beauty, possessions, and status. When these external identifiers lose their power, we uncover the essence of who we truly are beyond form, the unchanging consciousness that witnesses the flow of life and death. In practical life, this means living with an open heart, preparing gently for the inevitable without anxiety or resistance. It means offering kindness and presence to those who are dying, recognizing their passage as sacred. Ultimately, this gentle acceptance is a sacred dance with life's impermanence. It transforms death from a source of fear into a doorway of peace, inviting us to rest fully in the present moment, free from the chains of attachment and illusion. 7. Synchronicity and the sense of déjà vu. The deep interconnection of all things. Life often surprises us with moments that feel strangely familiar, as if we've walked this path before. You might call it déjà vu, that eerie, almost mystical feeling of having already lived a present moment. Alongside this, there are those uncanny coincidences or synchronicities that seem too meaningful to be mere chance. From a Buddhist perspective, these experiences are windows into the profound interconnectedness that underlies all existence. The Buddha's teaching of pada, or dependent origination, reveals that everything arises in connection with everything else. Nothing exists in isolation. This means that every person we meet, every event we experience, is part of an intricate web of causes and conditions stretching beyond what our minds can immediately perceive. Synchronicity is the language of this interconnectedness manifesting in our lives. It's as if the universe is gently reminding us that we are not separate islands, but threads woven into a vast, living tapestry. When you think of someone and they suddenly call, or when a seemingly random encounter carries a profound message, these are signs that your inner world and the outer world are aligned. This alignment is not about superstition or magical thinking. Rather, it reflects the deep harmony between your consciousness and the unfolding of life. It can be seen as the soul's way of communicating that you are on the right path, that lessons from past lives or experiences are surfacing to guide your present journey. Déjà vu, then, can be understood as a glimpse beyond the linear flow of time. It hints at the Buddhist insight that past, present, and future are not fixed points, but fluid aspects of reality. The soul, having traveled countless lifetimes, sometimes recognizes patterns and places, creating a sense of familiarity that transcends the current life. These experiences invite us to cultivate mindfulness and openness. Rather than dismissing them as mere coincidence or trickery of the brain, we can see them as invitations to pay attention, to listen deeply to the subtle messages life offers, and to trust the unfolding process. Synchronicity and déjà vu also teach humility. They remind us that our understanding is limited and that life's mysteries are vast. They encourage surrender to the greater flow, fostering trust that even seemingly random or challenging events serve a higher purpose in our growth. Importantly, recognizing these patterns can inspire gratitude and a sense of sacredness in everyday moments. Life becomes a dance of meaningful connections, each step linked to the next in a beautiful cosmic choreography. From a practical standpoint, this awareness nurtures patience and reduces anxiety about control. When we accept that there is a deep order beneath apparent chaos, we can relax into the present, knowing that the universe supports our journey. In sum, Synchronicity and déjà vu are not anomalies, but expressions of the fundamental Buddhist truth that all phenomena arise interdependently. They invite us to awaken to the profound unity that connects us all across time and space, opening our hearts to wonder, trust, and deep peace. 8. The diminishing ego. From self-assertion to unity with all life. One of the most profound transformations on the spiritual path is the gradual loosening of the ego's grip, the quiet fading of the urgent need to prove oneself, to be recognized, or to compete for status. In Buddhist philosophy, the ego is understood as a constructed sense of self, a collection of labels, desires, and defenses that create the illusion of separation from others and the world. As the ego diminishes, what arises is not emptiness in the sense of loss, but a profound expansion, a merging with the interconnected web of life. This process is essential to the Buddhist concept of anatta, or non-self, which teaches that there is no fixed, permanent I separate from the flow of existence. The diminishing ego is not about annihilating the self or becoming a passive entity. Rather, it is about seeing the self clearly for what it is, a transient, conditioned phenomenon, and releasing the compulsive need to guard and inflate it. This shift opens the door to genuine freedom and peace. In practical terms, this means the voice inside that constantly says, "I must be better, I must win, or I must prove myself," becomes quieter. Instead, the heart begins to recognize the futility of such struggles and the suffering they cause. With the ego's decline, compassion and empathy naturally increase. We start to feel less like isolated individuals and more like cells in a vast organism. This sense of unity softens boundaries and replaces competition with cooperation. The Buddha's teachings encourage this transition through mindfulness and insight meditation, which reveal the impermanent and interdependent nature of the self. Through these practices, the hardened walls of ego begin to crumble, revealing the underlying truth. We are not separate, but part of a seamless whole. This expanded awareness fosters humility. We no longer need external validation to feel worthy, because our sense of self is no longer tied to fragile achievements or identities. Instead, we find contentment in simply being, a being connected to all life. The diminishing ego also dissolves the fear of loneliness. When we understand that the I is fluid and interconnected, the idea of being alone loses its sting. We realize we have always been and will always be part of a greater life force. Importantly, this process does not erase individuality or creativity. The ego, when understood and placed in its proper context, becomes a helpful tool, a servant rather than a master. It guides healthy boundaries, authentic expression, and wise choices without dictating our sense of worth. As the ego softens, judgment gives way to understanding. We become less reactive and more compassionate, recognizing the shared humanity in others rather than seeing them as threats or rivals. This transformation is not instant or complete, but a gradual unfolding. Moments of pride or defensiveness may still arise, but the difference is in how quickly we return to a centered, peaceful state. Ultimately, the diminishing ego marks a deep spiritual maturity, the readiness to move beyond self-centeredness and embrace the universal flow of life. It is the doorway to true liberation, where the boundaries between me and you dissolve, and only unity remains. 9. Deep peace and letting go of material attachments. Living in inner harmony. As one progresses on the spiritual path, a profound transformation takes place. The cultivation of deep, abiding peace that no external circumstance can shake. This inner harmony arises when the restless mind releases its grip on worldly desires and attachments, stepping into a space of true freedom. Buddhism teaches that craving and attachment are at the root of suffering, dukkha. Our relentless pursuit of material possessions, status, and sensory pleasures creates an endless cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. Yet, when we begin to loosen these ties, not through force or denial, but through compassionate understanding, the heart naturally settles into a peaceful state. This peace is not a fleeting escape or avoidance of life's challenges. Instead, it is a stable, unshakable calm that remains present even amid turmoil. It is born from the wisdom of impermanence, anicca, the insight that everything we cling to is transient and ultimately unable to provide lasting fulfillment. The process of letting go is deeply compassionate. It does not reject the beauty or comfort of life, but sees them with clarity, appreciating their value without becoming enslaved by them. Like a bird that perches lightly on a branch, the peaceful mind enjoys life's pleasures without clinging, ready to take flight when the moment calls. Living free from material bondage shifts the focus inward. The true treasures become kindness, presence, and the ability to engage fully with the moment. The soul recognizes that these intangible qualities nourish and sustain far more than any external possession ever could. This detachment also brings clarity and simplicity. Without the clutter of craving, life becomes less complicated and more spacious. Decisions are made with a quiet confidence rooted in inner wisdom, not the anxiety of securing more. Moreover, deep peace fosters gratitude. When the heart is no longer restless for what it lacks, it opens to appreciate what is already present: the warmth of the sun, the smile of a loved one, the breath that sustains life. Gratitude transforms even the simplest moments into sacred experiences. In practical terms, this may mean choosing a lifestyle that honors sustainability and mindful consumption, cultivating generosity, and focusing on authentic connections rather than possessions. The Buddha's teachings encourage this letting go as a path to liberation, nirvana, where the mind is free from the chains of desire and suffering. This liberation is not a distant ideal, but a living reality accessible through mindfulness, ethical living, and compassion. Importantly, letting go is not about loss, but about gaining peace, freedom, and the spaciousness to truly be oneself. It is a gentle unfolding, a return to the essence of who we are beyond the masks of material identity. This deep peace also radiates outward, inspiring others to seek freedom from the cycles of craving and dissatisfaction. It becomes a beacon of hope and a source of genuine joy. Ultimately, living in harmony with oneself and the world, free from material attachments, is the heart of Buddhist wisdom, a timeless invitation to embrace life fully and freely, with an open and peaceful heart. Emerging memories from past lives. The soul's journey toward completion. Among the subtle yet profound signs of spiritual maturity is the gradual awakening of memories from past lives. These are not ordinary recollections, but deep, often spontaneous flashes, vivid dreams, sensations, or feelings that seem to come from beyond this current lifetime. In Buddhist teachings, these emerging memories serve as crucial markers, helping the soul recognize unfinished lessons and gently guide it toward the completion of its karmic journey. Buddhism teaches that the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, samsara, is fueled by karma, the ripening of past actions. Each lifetime offers opportunities to learn, heal, and grow. Sometimes, when the soul approaches the final stages of this cycle, these past life memories resurface naturally, not to trap or confuse, but to clarify and heal. These memories can manifest in various ways. They might come as detailed dreams, where one recognizes places never visited in this life, or as intuitive knowledge of skills never formally learned. Occasionally, a sudden emotional wave, joy, sorrow, or longing, arises without any clear source, hinting at unresolved stories from former incarnations. The Buddha's teachings encourage mindfulness and compassion in witnessing these experiences. Rather than becoming attached or fearful, the awakened practitioner uses these memories as tools for deeper insight and liberation. They illuminate patterns that have been repeated across lifetimes, offering opportunities to release lingering attachments and karmic debts. This process is intimately tied to the cultivation of vipassana, clear seeing. Through meditation and self-reflection, one discerns which memories hold lessons to be integrated and which are merely echoes to be released. The aim is not to dwell in the past, but to bring its wisdom into the present, facilitating healing and awakening. Importantly, these past life recollections often bring a comforting sense of belonging, a feeling of homecoming. This greater home is not a physical place, but a spiritual state, a recognition that the soul has traveled far and is nearing the end of its wandering. The emergence of these memories signals that the soul is ready to tie up loose ends, to forgive old wounds, and to embrace the fullness of its journey. It is a sacred invitation to complete the cycle of rebirth with grace and understanding. For many, this process fosters profound peace. The confusion and suffering of life begin to make sense as parts of a larger story. The soul moves closer to nirvana, the cessation of suffering and the ultimate freedom. Practically, recognizing and working with these memories encourages living with greater compassion, patience, and humility. It reminds us that our struggles are not isolated, but part of an ongoing evolution, a grand unfolding across time. In essence, the awakening of past life memories is not about clinging to what was, but about embracing the totality of the soul's path. It is a powerful step toward liberation, helping the soul complete its journey and rest in the eternal peace that lies beyond. These signs are not here to frighten you or rush you. They are gentle reminders that life is a sacred journey filled with profound stages of transformation. This video contains deep, valuable insights that can help you navigate that path with mindfulness and compassion. So take a moment to reflect. Are you ready to let go of what no longer serves you? To truly listen to the quiet call of the Buddha nature within. Awakening does not come from outside. It blossoms from the depths of your own heart. If this message touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and join our community by subscribing. Together, we'll explore these sacred truths with honesty and care. Remember, the path to true liberation is within your reach, step by step, breath by breath. Stay present, stay compassionate, and keep walking toward the light that is already inside you. Thank you for watching. Until next time.